Orospu çocuğu.
Motorstorm Apocalypse is one of those one-of-a-kind games that's never been replicated in the modern day, and looking back at it now, I wish that was the case. Unlike the last two titles where it's mostly focused on off-roading, only this time being in an urban environment, but not just any one, a one that's falling apart. So much so that you can even call it a sequel to Split Second. Unfortunately, unlike the other games, this one didn't sell that well since people were burnt out of it, and the fact that a natural disaster happened on the same day of release, that being the Tohoku earthquake of 2011. It was to the point where the game didn't even release in Japan. It was released in other Asian places titled Motorstorm 3, which is strange considering the fact that Evolution never used numbers in their other games. Regardless, the game was praised for what it was, but it didn't warrant Evolution to make another game, thus being the last one. No, RC doesn't count. Today we'll be taking a look at what I like about this game and how Sony shouldn't have murdered it. So I bring you Motorstorm Apocalypse. In an alternate timeline where a Genshin player becomes the president of a country, a city that's basically San Francisco has turned into a hellhole. But since this is San Francisco, or any city that's on the west coast, this is practically nothing. Regardless, the city is up in flames with constant earthquakes, harsh weather conditions, buildings being obliterated, and two factions that are trying to kill each other that consist of the average west coast citizen and a private military group named Dustlight, who's trying to restore order in the city even though Mother Nature has it by the balls, but whatever. One day out of nowhere, a group of lunatics on an aircraft fleet named the Motorstorm shows up and decides to raise hell and have themselves a good time until the biggest earthquake comes in and puts everything down for good reasons. Because it's San Francisco. There are a total of 3 characters you follow throughout the game, those being Mash, Tyler, and Big Dog. Mash is just some random stowaway you follow around that goes through his rookie years in Motorstorm, and he looks like that one guy from the movie Jumper. Next we have Tyler, who's more of a seasoned pro that doesn't like to wear a shirt for some reason, and is part of a Call of Duty sniper clan that bets on Bitcoin. And last we have Big Dog, who is the leader of the fleet and is basically a father figure to the whole fleet of lunatics. He's also voiced by Steve Bloom, who you may recognize from everything that is basically under the goddamn sun, although he does have a sexy ass voice.
Oh my god.
Here we are, day one of the festival, and you're all thinking, hey.
Other than that, there's nothing much to it. The characters themselves aren't that interesting in the slightest. Most of the time they'll just do things that holds nothing and just goof off for the whole 2 days. This is the only game in the series that has a storyline, and my big question is why? It really doesn't need it.
Well, look's not enough.
Look, it's little sashimi.
Shut up, you stupid bitch! Hi-ya!
And not to show on someone's artwork, trust me, I've seen worse, but the art style for the cutscenes are, to put it in the nicest way possible, is a literal needle through the fucking eye.
I'm looking at lollies. Is that a sexual fetish?
Now, art is subjective, sometimes, but everything in the cutscenes just looks really cheap. I don't know how to describe it, but the way the characters moves just gets on my nerves for some reason. The way they walk, talk, or just do any human function is just plain awkward. It just looks really stiff. I know it's a comic, or rather motion comic, because those were a thing, but motion comics just doesn't work in my opinion, and it shows. Honestly, I would recommend you that you just skip the cutscenes. They're not really worth your time, since the other games didn't have a storyline, and it shows it should have stayed that way. All in all, it's just an eye-bleeding mess.
Focus more on rally racing and off-road racing, Dirt 5 is perfect for you.
Unlike the other games where you just progress normally, Apocalypse offers something new to each storyline, where in the intro, you have to drive to the festival, the middle where you have to do all the races, and the end where you have to leave the city, unless you want to turn into a pancake. Like I said before about the 3 protagonists that you follow around throughout the storylines, they both represent a difficulty pattern. Since Mash is a rookie, his events is basically a kiddie pool and the cutoff is 5th place or higher. The opponents don't really try to do anything most of the time and they just follow around their racing line. Tyler is a pro, so his races will be balanced out and the cutoff place is 3rd place or higher. And Big Dog is a veteran, so his opponents in his class will give you a hard time and fight you to the death if you get in their way. They did add some new things to the table. You can now cool down the boost gauge while you're in the air just by letting the throttle go. Some vehicles can cool down under a nanosecond if they're smaller, or if they're bigger it'll take exactly 10 goddamn years. The environment still has a play when it comes to boosting. Fire can still heat up your engine and water can cool it down. The ramming feature that was introduced in Rift but was deemed useless when it comes to pushing opponents is now useful. Now it feels like you're trying to push your opponents off the road and into a wall.
Take it, boy.
Since it is the end of the world, or should I say the end of California, you can expect people to go complete anarchy and do whatever the hell they want, meaning that they can fuck you over by throwing Molotovs at you, shooting you with guns, shooting you with helicopters, and sending rockets your way. So pretend that they're a fan of Whole Lotta Red and just run them over.
You just rolled a spare. Spare me an inch of that fat fucking
But not only random psychopaths are trying to kill you, but the whole entire world around you is trying to do so as well. There are going to be times where everything decides to break loose and stop you in your tracks. That includes earthquakes, buildings falling down from landslides, people getting their hands on things that they shouldn't have in the first place, and just downright madness. Throughout those races, some paths will be opened up or shut down for good, and others will just straight up get you. These are my favorite moments throughout the game that makes the tracks feel like special places rather than generic tracks. Some of my favorites is when a whole entire neighborhood goes up in flames and cause a whole pipeline to explode, and the one with the tornado at the beach area. And speaking of tracks, there are 10 tracks that you can race on, that being a beach area, a condensed downtown district, an open-ended harbor, a falling down neighborhood, a train station / dark underground sewage, an interstate, a destroyed financial district, a coast of the Golden Gate Bridge where you can witness it being destroyed, and my favorite skyscrapers where you can race on top of them and witness them falling down at the same time. Well, all said and good, there are a few missing key features in this game, that being the pros and cons of the vehicles. Well, I mean, it's kinda there, but not really. Remember how in the last games where the vehicles you select is basically a double-edged sword depending on what you select and what route you choose? Well, they kind of abandoned that practice and just made everything bare bones, meaning that you can take anything anywhere at any time. Which is a shame considering that's what made the Motorstorm games charming in the first place, which makes mud pluggers feel really useless while driving on the asphalt, and bikes don't get penalized for driving on loose terrain, which is really strange. And speaking of vehicles, you have the same old vehicles from the last game, so I won't go into too much detail about them, but there are a few new ones that you can play with, that being something I can't afford, I'm a straight male, you watch one episode of Sons of Anarchy, you don't know what a corner is, and a hipster mobile. And now you can customize your vehicles via bodywork, paint jobs, stickers, and other things. And to get the other cosmetics you have to play the multiplayer, but good luck with that, because the online service shut down back in 2018, which is a shame since the multiplayer was a real blast. Throughout the game you can collect cards that spread out on each track you play on. They share a piece of information that consists of characters, vehicles, and tracks from the past games. There is a card that talks about an area that's called the Heights, which was a planned DLC for this game, but it was short-lived and never saw the light of day. This was due to the fact that the game had low sales and Evolution just wanted to work on something else at this point. While I do think they are a cool addition to the game, personally I don't really care about much of this stuff. It's just something achievement hunters can brag about on the internet, and not to knock those people, but I like touching grass. Lastly, I want to touch bases on graphics. Now compared to the first game in Pacific Rift, Apocalypse just feels more like a downgrade compared to them. I don't know how to describe it, but it looks a bit cartoony when you compare the other two. Everything looks a bit unfinished, and the cars themselves just look really unpolished. Also, the game has 3D mode. Yeah, fuck that.
Monster, how shall I feel? Creatures lie.
If this game's soundtrack was a woman, I would marry it in a heartbeat. Instead of getting music that consists of rock and techno from well-known artists, everyone at Evolution decided to create their own music that fits the game's world, with the help of a well-known composer, Klaas Badelt, who you may know for composing the soundtrack for the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and they brought some well-known artists such as Elite Force, Noisia, and my personal favorite, DJ Shadow. And what they've done is basically remixed everything and turned it into something more fast-paced and blood-pumping music. And I can't tell you how much of an outstanding job they've done. I think it's better if I gave you some examples.
Sorry, Master. I'm a little gassy today. Can I have your Big Mac?
And of course you can listen to your own music using the XMB menu, but honestly I don't know why you would do that since this game's soundtrack is better than having raw sex, although it can lead to some funny moments. This has going to be one of my favorite video game soundtracks that has ever been made. If you are into electronica, I implore you to listen to this game's soundtrack. It is on YouTube, so yeah.
Smells so good. I love Boy Smells so much. It makes me feel amazing.
It is a shame that this was the last game in the series and died young, due to the fact that Apocalypse sales was very low and unfortunate timing, with Evolution moving on to something else for the 8th generation, that being Drive Club for the PlayStation 4. While that's a good game on its own right and it deserves to be talked about in a video, in my opinion it doesn't really hold a candle when it comes to the heart and soul of Motorstorm. What made Motorstorm special is that it wasn't like anything else on the market, and it doesn't waste your time because of it. In the age where games will just waste your time and doesn't have a goal in mind and just appeals to those who never played a racing game in their entire life, and it can't be bothered to do so. And it's a shame because Evolution shut down and defected to Codemasters, and you probably know what happened after that. But at the end of the day, Motorstorm will always remain in my heart for being an outstanding yet chaotic masterpiece. Before I go, I would like to make a quick update about my channel and future plans. Let's get it out of the gate. For the last few months, I haven't been uploading since I dropped the retrospective of our racing evolution and amongst other things. Since I was busy doing college work and I was just kind of burnt out of making videos and doing college at the same time. And after I graduated there, I took an unannounced break and basically just goofed off with my friends and family.
Number one, alright boys, Dumbsville, smash or pass?
Pass.
Are we smashing or passing on Dums? What's the...
I'm passing.
Whoa, hey, wait, yo, hold on!
But now that I'm back, I do have some plans in the near future. I was going to make a video about the Forza Horizon series a few months ago, but there were a few problems with the scripting, footage, and just flat out personal reasons. So the whole video is going to be put on hold until everything is straightened out. I do have plans for the upcoming months, but I'd rather not say anything about it since I don't want to get people's hopes up for nothing, but I promise I won't leave you guys hanging again. Other than that, thank you all for watching. I hope you all to see you in the near future. Now fuck off, I'm gonna go watch Edge Runners now.